more roving by Lord Byron. I'm Vanessa.
I'm Leo.
I'm Jared.
I'm Kenneth.
And before we get into the nitty gritty, we're going to go over kind of the inspiration of this poem, Lord Byron's own life. And Jared's going to tell us some stuff about it.
So Lord Byron, or his actual name is George Gordon Byron. He was born January 22nd in 1788 in London, UK, and died April 19th, 1824 in Greece, at the right young age of 36. And he died from the common cold, because they did not have modern medicine at that time, unfortunately. Yeah. A kind of cool fact about him was when he was going into college, they didn't allow dogs, so he decided to bring a tamed bear to college.
Yeah.
So honestly, kind of sick.
Not only was he wild with animals, he was pretty wild in his love life too. He was always with all these women. Only 6 documented, but I'm sure there's more. And so, he was a very scandalous man, taking interest in many things, including his half-sister. So, with that, would you like to read the poem first?
With that, yes, we shall get into the poem. So we'll go to More Roving by Lord Byron. So here we go. So we'll go no more roving so late into the night, though the heart be still as loving and the moon be still as bright. For the sword outwears its sheath and the soul wears out the breast, and the heart must pause to breathe and love itself have rest. Though the night was made for loving and the day returns too soon, yet we'll go no more a roving by the light of the moon. So, to kind of start talking about
that first stanza,
our interpretations and how we interpret this poem, I say the first stanza of the poem, I feel as though Lord Byron is expressing a sense of sadness, as though he has met someone he truly had feelings for, but they had to move on from each other, although he still felt the love for the person, and the night was still young and lively.
Yeah, and I feel like there's all these different themes in this poem and everything like that, and I feel like one that you kind of touched on is the passage of time. Like, he has to move on from his love, and with that, it takes time. And there's even a line in the poem that says, "For the sword outwears its sheath." And basically, I feel like that means love can grow over time to the point of being too much for one's heart. Or in his case, not love, but lust. And basically, it can not only wear on the heart, but the soul. And I feel like that's really what he used that metaphor to kind of describe. So, yeah.
So one thing that I noticed is that since he had a lot of women, right, and he was a guy, sometimes these things can be very even admired in society, and even still to this day, where it is looked down upon if a woman has many men after her, whereas a guy, sometimes it's even admired, it's praised, and especially back then, but still to this day. And I've met people who have had this sort of lifestyle and have parted ways with it, and they constantly tell me about how unfulfilling it is, because at first you're young, you're desperate, and you're not really thinking about things too much. So at first it's very exciting, it's very cool and whatnot, but eventually it gets boring because there's no fulfillment in it. It's like you're going nowhere with it,
I feel like explains why he was so old when he wrote this poem and realized, I can't keep doing this. So, yeah.
So for the second stanza, I'll read it again, so kind of get a little refresher for it. Second stanza says, "For the sword outwears its sheath, and the soul wears out the breast, and the heart must pause to breathe, and love itself have rest." So in this stanza, Bryson uses several metaphors referring to fatigue of the mind, body, and heart or soul. I believe he says these things because he is in love with the person that he's referring to, or persons that he's referring to, and it's taking a toll on him to move on. But at the end of the stanza, Byron writes, "And love itself must rest." I believe this is Byron saying he has to let go, put those feelings away, and move on.
Yeah, and that kind of correlates to the rest and renewal aspect of the poem, and how obviously it's like straining to keep something up like that, like obviously, and just like how after a long day at work you kind of have to rest with your emotions. You can't constantly be loving, giving, you know, because there's not really anything being received through lust. Like he mentions how basically they'll go no more roving by the light of the moon, and I feel like that really like makes a point as like how he needs to wrap that up.
Absolutely. So the last stanza, we'll reread that one too before we dive into it. Though the night was made for loving, and the day returns too soon, yet we'll go no more roving by the light of the moon.
So the last stanza says that the author ending his roving is not because of the night or the environment. The author remarks that night is actually perfect and made for loving, though they will not go a roving anymore. So this implies that because the night is perfect, that there must be an internal or a relationship issue. So this may have to do with a change in a character or a change in a relationship. So the word roving itself means going from place to place without a specific destination or wandering. So the most common interpretation takes roving to mean like a long, fun walk around. So this generally takes the poem to mean that Lord Byron was going with a woman roving around, and because they are no longer in a relationship, it will no longer go a roving. But the next definition takes roving to be a little bit more metaphorical, such as Lord Byron going from place to place with no destination, meaning he goes from woman to woman with no destination. And this fits very well with his character because, as we mentioned earlier, he was very prone from going to woman to woman. So this basically takes the poem to mean that he is grown up, he is mature, and he realizes that his roving or going from woman to woman is tiring and he needs to end it.
Yeah. He has to stop even though it's something that's been giving him gratification for so long.
I remember before we started reading this, looking up the word roving, I never heard of it before, and I remember seeing a definition that used the word wandering that I saw, which I think is very fitting for all this and the lifestyle he lived for wandering, just kind of like mindless, like walking, like without a purpose, whether that's to destinations or to people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just thought that was very, very good wording, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely like a journey without motivations. Exhausting mentally, physically, which obviously he reflects in the story.
Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah. Like,
Stay tuned for more on Men's Division 3 hockey. Schedule will be out shortly.